So this was their first opportunity to go in-house. So they had hired a sales director to come in. They had their marketing team. And they just, what's interesting about my role is that you've always got sales and marketing. I'm neither.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sales operations.
Right.
I'm the glue that kind of ties it together. So those two teams are incredible at what they do, and they're very, very important. However, they don't always talk to each other in the same language.
Okay. Welcome to the show. This is Jenny Woon, and I'm your host in the House Podcast. And Toni is not here today. She's actually spending time with her family on Vancouver Island. But I have a very, very special guest in the house. Actually, in the house.
I'm actually here.
Yeah. I want to introduce to you NAVI Guraya with NAVI Guraya Consulting Limited.
Hello.
How are you doing, Navi?
I'm great, Jenny.
Thanks for reluctantly wanting to come to coming to our show.
Don't tell people I was reluctant and you forced me into this.
Well, you actually paid me to be on the show.
In pasta, yes.
So I wanted to bring you on because you know our listeners. Have you even listened to one of my podcasts?
I mean, you're my friend. I have to.
Okay.
At least 2 or 3.
Thank you. Thank you for writing the review.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So our listeners are actually a combination of like developers, mortgage brokers, realtors, professional entrepreneurs. And I wanted to have you on the podcast because you came from a corporate world of working with an employer in development, so working with multi-level developers with different types of products. And
yeah.
So we'll talk about that after.
Okay.
And now you're actually out on your own, seeking your own contracts, self-employed, being a consultant. So I'm going to talk about that as well. But let's hear from you, your background. Like maybe just give us like a 30-second background of what you've been doing over the past like 10 years, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah. No. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on here. I'm a little bit nervous, but I think we can get through this.
I think so, too.
Okay. So I've actually been in the industry for just a little under 15 years. So my first entrance into the industry was via agency, and I started as a hostess on a sales floor in a project in Abbotsford. And this is when homes were $264,900.
Isn't that really high in Abbotsford?
In 2008? I don't think so.
No? Okay.
You know, for a 1-bedroom at 2,649. I mean, I should have bought 10 back then, right? So
we all should have.
We all should have bought 10 back then. So I remember first joining the industry then and not really knowing what it was, to be honest. I was sort of not working, had an opportunity, got thrown into the role, and I started as a hostess. And then through the hostess role, I learned a lot on the back end for administration. And again, working with agency, I had a lot of opportunity with a diverse portfolio that allowed me to engage with a different type of developer, different type of product, and different type of people, different type of demographic, right? So I did spend the first few years working on the agency side on the admin world, managing sort of the, site coordinator role, managing multiple projects, making sure all the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed, being very diligent with compliance and reporting and analytics, and sort of being the backbone for salespeople and for developers to understand their own metrics, their own data. So, and I'm a bit of a dork that way. I do love it. And I fell into it and I fell in love. And then eventually I did have an opportunity to go into the sales side of the world. And while it was intriguing and it looked fancy and schmancy and everybody looked like they were having a great time, it wasn't for me. And I decided to stick to more of a stability, more of a stable role with admin. So working with the agency, I ended up actually running their back office, their head office admin department for a few years. And I did that for about 10, 11 years.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I definitely have a lot of experience with like a diverse group of developers throughout the industry. And then a couple of years ago, in 2020 actually, of February 1st of 2020.
During COVID.
That's when I actually released myself as a consultant.
Wow.
Of course, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't expect it to come. And I decided, probably it took me a year to really push the trigger and to really do it. But the thought process was there, and I had some amazing champions in my life that were also pushing me in that direction and saying that I have a skill set, I have a niche, and that I should really, just kind of dive into it.
A lot of women have a very hard time letting go because they don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah.
They always say, it may not be greener on the other side. But what was the one thing, what was your pain point to want to be going out on your own?
I just didn't think anybody was paying attention to customer experience, homeowner experience. While we focus a lot on the marketing, the sales, the development side, and in construction, of course, we forget about the actual buyer. And so we covet the relationship very early on in the beginning. We do a lot of marketing. We put a lot of money into our marketing resources in order to find the buyer, right? We find them, we covet that relationship until we have a firm deal. When the deal goes firm, we kind of disappear, right? Like especially, obviously we're speaking specifically about pre-sale residential development. So from the moment your deal is firm till the maybe 6 to 9 months before you start going through completion, there's like a 3 to 4 year gap. And we disappear as a developer. We disappear as a brand. So I've watched that happen for many, many years.
Right.
And so watching that happen, it kind of hurt me, to be honest. Because I was like, there's real people behind this. And it wasn't just mass investors. We've got, you've got your John and Sally buying their first home for the first time. Right? You've got mom and dad buying the first home for their child for the first time. Married couples, coming together for the first time. Like it was, there's real connectivity behind it. And we lost that. And so one of the biggest reasons I decided to take this leap of faith and sort of jump into this was because I believe in the fact that we have opportunity to reconnect with our buyers, and not only to build positive relationships around our consumer and our brand, but to also recognize that we have referral opportunities here too. And you're a resale agent, right?
I totally understand that.
What every realtor out there has it on their e-signature or on your card.
Our business is based on
referral system, right? But in pre-sale, we don't focus on it. Now, there are opportunities in resale during a sales program where you would say, hey, bring in a friend and we'll give you a credit or blah, blah, blah. But what about that long-term relationship? So one, referral opportunities, but also like really allow it to be an amazing experience, right? And when you have an amazing experience about something, you tell people. Right? Like, why do we shop at a particular store versus elsewhere? Because we have a good experience. I go to the same coffee shop. I go out of my way to go to a specific coffee shop because I like the fact that they remember my name.
Right.
They remember my order.
That's really important.
Absolutely.
It leaves a lasting impression on you, right?
That's right. And I'll go out of my way and I'll recommend it. So if anybody asks me, what's your favorite coffee shop? I'm going to mention this coffee shop. And I probably know a few of the people that work there. I know their names too. And I try to make an effort. And I think COVID did allow us to recognize that we've disconnected as a humanity from people. And so now is the time to reconnect. So while I didn't know that, jumping into the consulting world, I've always felt this industry has lost the actual core of what we do is people. We're a people-based industry, and we are losing our relationships with the people that matter the most.
Okay. And where did you get that feedback from? Like, is it from the end user feeling like there's that disconnect and you're constantly getting questions and that you felt that pattern was happening? Or is it more coming from the management and agency side where, okay, well, we've made our money, we've made our sales, and we're just not going to put that extra effort in until we complete?
It's a great question. Actually, I think it's from me being so tactical at the very beginning of my career, being hands-on, actually being on the call, having conversations with people. So, yes, part of it at the very beginning, I would say first 5, 6, 7 years of my career was focused on talking to the homeowners, talking to the purchasers, talking to the realtors. And it was just a consistent story, I don't know what's happening. I'm confused. Can you help me? What's the next process? I'm overwhelmed. And I was regurgitating the same story to them. I was telling them the same story. And I wasn't doing anything special. I have no magic. My magic is just listening. My magic is just simply being present in conversation and engaging. That's all it was. And it helped them. and it made them feel good. And if I had some foresight into where I would be in this career, maybe I should have taken some testimonials from all those people over the years, you know?
You can get a testimonial from me because remember, back when I was completing on a
Yes.
townhome project in Burnaby, you were actually basically responding to my emails, my concern about this air conditioning unit that kept dripping condensation
Yeah.
onto my tenant's furniture.
Yeah, you
So
terrified me. Yeah, I remember.
I actually was really nice because
You
I
were
know
nice. You were
I know
wonderful.
that I can get more done, and get a better response if I'm actually nice,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
But most customers are not nice. I'll give you an example. Just recently, I'm sure you probably have read as well, that this certain developer, not going to name names, mixed up color schemes on the cabinets. And this kind of went viral
Yeah.
on Reddit, on Facebook groups. So if you were in the developer's shoes and you were responding to this irate customer who received a kitchen or bathroom cabinets that were mixed matched and different from the original contract that was written in the color scheme that they had selected, what would you have done if you were in the place of the developer? How would you have responded so that that comment on social media could have been avoided?
Well, I think accountability is step one, right? And at the end of the day, everybody wants to feel value in what they're saying. So being present in that conversation is a big deal as well. Being proactive in communicating, being accountable to the mistakes that were made. And this is going to sound silly, but saying I apologize isn't good enough. Saying
Right.
I'm sorry actually goes further because it's a bit more genuine. It's a bit more real, a bit more authentic. So we're going to make mistakes. Nobody in this world is perfect, right? We will make mistakes. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to not own them. So while this developer, I think, is going through a big learning curve, it happens all the time, actually, in the industry where wrong color schemes are included or an option has been missed. And I've been a part of this. And at the end of the day, I think most buyers are reasonable in understanding that it was a mistake. What they want then is to be heard, have value in what they're saying, but then a solution being provided that is fair. So not one solution, maybe there's multiple solutions. Maybe there's 3 avenues we can take here. What suits you best, you know? So what I would say to this developer is, I'm so sorry you had to go through this, but obviously big learning curve, opportunity to do better in the future. And I think in the future is be present face to face versus emails and phone calls.
Right.
That goes a long way. So in my history of having to deal with, upset homeowners, I usually try to meet with them.
Right.
One, because they see me and they're like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. How do I be mad at her? But
And instantly, everything's
instantly
forgiven.
they're gone. No, usually it's because I can be just my authentic self. I'm a human being. And when we are hiding behind emails,
Right.
hiding behind phone calls, hiding behind letters, I don't think it allows you to connect. Again, going back to that connectivity, allowing people to feel like, hey, man, I'm human too, right? It's okay to make mistakes. And, just like as a child, when the child falls and they get back up, you say, it's okay, get up. It's the same thing, right? So we're just trying to encourage anybody in this industry to be okay with failure, but just own it.
Right. Right.
That's it. Face to face goes a long way.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm finding as well when I preamp my clients before walking into a deficiency walkthrough, like an orientation that they receive prior to taking possession, I prepare them and let them know that this is just, the first walkthrough, give them an expectation that they're not going to be coming in with microscopes or like telescopes or anything like that, where they're examining it so close that they will find some flaws in the home because there are some things that may be missed through just regular traffic coming in and out.
Of course.
Someone accidentally hitting the wall as they're leaving the room or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of orientations where they've brought in home inspectors. And it's like, this is a brand new home. It has warranty on it. You want to spend the few $100s on your home inspector. That's for your peace of mind. That's fine. But you're right. You don't need to come in with a microscope. But at the same time, there has been this sort of, narrative around big bad developer. And so people get scared, especially the people that don't know. Maybe a seasoned veteran investor understands. But someone new into the, buying their first home, young, putting all the money you've ever saved into your deposit, that's a big deal. So yeah,
Right.
you're nervous. And I think there, again, going back to why I kind of went on my own was I think I have opportunity to allow developers to recognize that these windows are opportunities to feel opportunity with the buyers so that they feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
They feel taken care of.
Right. That they made the right decision.
That's right.
Right.
And if things go wrong, we'll fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Within certain parameters. I mean, we have to be mindful of that as well, that there is a lot of people that will ask for a lot, things that are sort of outside of the scope, outside of the opportunities. And it's like you have to find the balance of saying, I hear you, but here's the reasoning why we cannot do that. And sometimes people don't necessarily always want to get everything. They just want an explanation as to the why, right? So if you can offer a clear why behind their question, that's enough most of the time if we're talking to reasonable people. Don't forget, we do have the odd unreasonable individual as well, and those can be cases where we learn from them, and sometimes you can't really win those, right? And that's okay. But I'm so happy that when you say that you sort of have this conversation with your buyers in advance, whereas I wish more realtors would, to be honest.
Right.
And is there an opportunity for a developer to support the realtor in that type of conversation? Yeah. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't the developers saying, hey, Mr. Realtor, we're about to do an orientation with your buyer, the buyer you've built a relationship with, and maybe you've known them for 10 years prior. Maybe it's not just this deal you've done with them. So how do we make them feel safe? Tell me a little bit about them. Now, on a high volume scale, it becomes difficult. I understand that. Is it impossible? No. It's just logistics. It's just making sure that it works, having the right people in place. So I think there's an opportunity to not just support the buyer, but to support the realtor.
Yes.
So that they have positive relationships with their buyer, which then push back to positive relationships with the developer.
Right. Which, you know what, the funny thing is that I've seen where a realtor, let's just say myself, realtor A, have represented a buyer to purchase a presale. And then that buyer wants to assign. However, that buyer decides to use realtor B, a totally different realtor, to try to assign. So that connectivity has missed, like it was missed, that opportunity.
Yeah.
So,
Now that can happen because I've seen, a lot of times you use your friend as a realtor, your cousin, your uncle's brother, whatever it might be, someone that's a relative, and you did it because you felt obligated or you had to. And then as the course of the relationship continues, you find that maybe you're not aligned and you're not communicating as effectively as you'd want. So then you find someone else because now you've had the time to go find somebody else. And so you've switched. And that's actually very common in the industry where someone will switch their realtor in the middle of a program. Obviously, the first realtor that's on the deal gets the commission.
yes.
But if you do an assignment, you're right. Now you've got that secondary realtor. And it can get messy. You can have a lot of parties involved. And that's why, going back to why I think we have opportunity here, is there are a lot of stakeholders involved in one transaction.
Absolutely.
It's not just the buyer. And
Right.
it's not just the realtor. There's a broker. There's a lawyer. And again, multiple realtors. There's the brokerage. So we have all these people, but we're kind of missing the opportunity to connect with them.
So let's hone down and focus on the realtor, the buyer, and the developer. What are you putting in place at the moment between after subject removal or them firming up the deal to completion? How are you enhancing that experience between the developer and the buyer, the developer and the realtor with the buyer? So that triangle that we're trying to just keep closed and engaged and communicated. And it could be, a completion that's 6 months away, 2 years away. What do you recommend to keep that realtor certainly engaged with the developer so that they're up to date and they're informed before that buyer? Because the buyer wants to know when's completion, what's happening with construction. So is there maybe something that you're recommending to developers right now?
Well, right now, the standard in the industry is that you send a construction update every 3 to 6.
Through emails?
Through emails, again, right? And how many emails do you get? I get lots.
I get a lot. I mean,
I don't look at half of them unless I know they're specifically for work, right?
Right.
But if it's just general emails, I'm not really looking at them. And I have multiple email accounts. So right now, the industry kind of just uses emails, mass mail. It's not good enough. So I believe that the future is technology and it's an app. So I'm working with a team. Well, I'm a co-founder on an app called Juniper. And Juniper is a homeowner deficiency management tool, and communication tool. So it allows a developer to engage with the homeowner. So from the moment you go, you have a firm deal, you are introduced to this app. And again, like, don't we have apps for everything on our phones?
Exactly.
Like
Well,
everything.
It's easily accessible.
It's accessible, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want an email, right? So on this app, you are able to communicate, so that from a developer perspective to the purchaser, you're able to communicate with the buyer. You can tell them updates as to what's happening with the project. You can tell them, hey, we filed an amendment, which might trigger a deposit. You can talk about the construction of the project by placing a camera on the site, so you have a live feed. There's a resource center where the buyer can go in and access their contract. Because how many times have you been sitting around with some friends and be like, hey, man, I just bought this new property, and they're like, oh, where is it? And you don't have any material to share in that moment, right? Like, are you carrying your brochure around? Are you carrying your marketing material around, your
And
contract
half the
around?
time, brochures aren't even printed nowadays.
Exactly. So this app allows you to have access to all of the marketing materials via like a digital platform, right? So you can say, hey, buddy, you want to see this new home that I bought? Check out this rendering. It's right there on your app, right?
Right.
You can take a look at the floor plan. You can take a look at you can look at the price sheet. You can take a look at anything. Again, opportunity for referrals, right?
Absolutely.
You're having some drinks with your friends. You're excited about this new place you bought. Maybe your friends are interested.
Right.
Maybe they want to know about the opportunity. Right. So that's one portion. And then, of course, there's the actual transaction itself. So then you want to now take a look at your deal. A lot of buyers, I do encourage, read your contract, read your disclosure statement. I know it's like 300 boring pages, but the reality is you should be aware of what you're getting yourself into. And yes, you have a 7-day right of rescission, which means you're supposed to read it. No one does, let's just be honest, until they need something. So wouldn't it be cool if you could just access it? If you're like, you're sitting in a transit and you're like, maybe you have some time and you could actually have time to read your disclosure statement because it's accessible to you. It's not a 400-page booklet you're carrying around.
Right.
It's available to you on your app, and maybe you read your disclosure statement.
Right.
Maybe you read through your contract. And some of the basic pieces of basic questions we get throughout the life cycle is, did I get parking? What's my next deposit?
Oh, yeah.
Did I get a storage locker? Or nowadays it's EV parking, right? Oh no, I bought a Tesla. Do I get EV parking? So instead of them having to question or think or worry and then have to track down who to call to get the answer, or to track down their contract, which they don't understand how to decipher anyways, they can just look at it through Juniper. And it will tell them what they got.
Who uploads all that information into Juniper?
The developer. So the developer owns the app.
Okay.
And then shares it with the buyer, introduces it to the buyer and says, hey, Mr. Buyer, here is kind of your hub of everything. So not only is it giving you an update as to what's happening, but it's also the resource center for all the things that have happened.
Okay.
Right? So
so basically you just said what struck me, what you was saying is the developer owns the app. Do you mean the license?
That's right.
Okay. So because what I often find is as soon as you take possession, the communication, besides emailing them like directly with a warranty or deficiency issue, is that you're handed off to the strata property manager. And there's like really no more communication. So if the developer owns this license, they're kind of building this community
absolutely
all over again once they move in. Imagine the loyalty of these owners wanting to buy another location with this developer.
Of course, because it's easy.
Right.
It's convenient. It's transparent. There's availability for knowledge. And again, it's not only just some of the resources that you need while you go through the transaction. It's a knowledge-based resource center. Like a lot of people don't know the difference between like a completion date or a possession date or a move-in date, right? A lot of people think, oh, possession date means I get the keys, I can move in. No, it doesn't actually. If you're in a tower, we can't have 400 people trying to move in at the same time. We have to organize it. It has to be scheduled. So there's an opportunity here to teach people about the process. And you're right. If you buy a particular home from one developer and you had such an amazing experience, you are going to be inclined to buy another home from them because you had such a great experience. That's why I keep going to particular shoe stores or particular clothing stores or particular cars. You know, I have a particular car that I like to keep getting every few years because I feel safe. I understand it.
Yeah.
I feel smart enough to make the right decision.
Right. There's the value there, that there's that peace of mind.
Yeah. And, when you buy a home, like it's one of those things like in life, finish school, get married, get a car, buy your first home, right? It's like the checklist of life. I don't know, I'm failing most of them, but anyways.
Did you ask your mom lately about that?
Mom really wants me to get married. So, hey. I mean, if there were any potential candidates, let me know. Okay?
Well, we are going to be broadcasting this.
Oh, shit. Oh, God. Yeah, maybe cut that piece out, guys. Okay, this is on Indian matrimonial site. Have you guys been watching Netflix, Indian Matchmaker? Maybe this is your version of it.
We can make that happen.
Yeah, hey.
We'll talk about that at the very end.
Awesome.
We'll
this could be
plug
a
you.
whole different version of the podcast. But what were we saying? Sorry, what were we talking about there for a second?
Actually, I want to switch gears here because I want to talk about you.
Oh,
You, where did you know that you had this tactic style, like this logic style of brain of yours? Did it come at a young age or just over time through experience? Obviously, you were working with the agency and you've kind of learned the workflow of things, but I'm sure a lot of it's also natural, like from maybe when you were a kid.
I mean, I'm a strong believer in focusing on your natural strengths and using those within your life, right? So I would say one of my natural strengths is being an effective communicator. And have you ever done Strengths Finder, that test?
I have,
Okay,
yeah.
so every time I've done it, and I'm going to give a shout out to Elva Kim, who told me to do it, from Anthem. She was the one that said, hey, you should really check out this little test, this book. So I did the test, and I've done it a few times, and every time it tells me my top 3 is positivity and communicator and woo. So woo is winning others over.
Ah, okay.
Right? So positivity, communication, and winning others over. So those
They'll
are the
go
3.
all hand in hand.
Right? They all connect, right?
Yeah.
So I think naturally, yes, I have an ability to communicate with people. But I've also really worked hard at being authentic when I communicate with people. So again, going back to the whole, I won't say I apologize. I'll say I'm sorry.
Right.
Because it's real.
Yeah.
Right? Apologize is like a kind of a fake way out of saying.
Like a little bit too technical in a way?
Yeah, it's too corporate. I apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused you.
Right.
Versus, I'm so sorry that this upset you.
Oh, wow. That already sounds so different.
Right?
Yes.
So I don't know if I've specifically have honed in on that skill. It's natural for me to be just a bit more authentic.
Or did
with
you just
people.
say, I'm sorry a lot when you were a kid?
Yeah, probably. My mom was always like, Jesus Christ. No. Yeah, no, I definitely had to apologize a lot as a child. I'm also the oldest of 4 and have control issues. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I was trying to control you earlier. But no, I think for me, it really just comes from a place of, I think life is fragile. And why we don't take the moments that we have to be authentic when we connect with people is a waste of our time. So anytime I try to connect, I try to be real. Unless I'm dating you, then I'm probably going to ignore you. But
Obviously, Navi wants to really talk about her dating life on this podcast.
No.
We'll
That's
get
the
to
only
that.
way I'm not gonna
to
go
that,
to the
but we got to
bathroom
talk
here.
about business here. Business first. I want to know, since 2020, what kind of contracts or what kind of work have been on your plate? Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, like I said, I decided to go out on my own in around 2019. I was working with a developer and I had this amazing leader that was supporting me through that conversation of like, what do you want to do next?
Thank you. You don't have to.
Yeah, you were part of it. Sure. Kathy Grant was the one that actually really was like, hey, now I was working with her through agency and then actually worked with her through developer, and she was my direct boss. And I think she saw something in me and was like, you really need to push this side of the business because no one else is doing it. So she instilled the confidence. And so I made the decision that February 1st was going to be my first day out into the industry. And then, of course, what was it, March 16th? The whole world sort of imploded, right? So I was a bit scared. Now, I had lined up business for the year, the 2020, and slowly every one of the clients dropped off.
Right.
Because we were just all so nervous and so scared. So at that point, I definitely was nervous. I was like, have I made a mistake? What bad timing? Should I go back to in-house? Can I get a job somewhere else? And then I was like, no, I'm going to stick it out. Right. And then luckily enough, Beedie Living decided to move forward with their project, Kin. Out in Burnaby.
What a great success.
What an amazing success. So I was so lucky to be a part of that. So they engaged with me, Sunny Ham, who was the director of marketing there. We had relationship through agency, and I was also the MC at his wedding. So we're good friends. And that's the beauty of this industry, is so much intimacy and the relationships that we have with people. And I think that also helps me remind, like, why aren't we sharing that with our buyers, right? So Sunny and I chatted, and he was like, you know what? We still do need your help. We're going to push forward. We're going to figure this out. We're going to push forward. And I love that resilience they had. And they're like, we don't know what's going on in this world, but we know we want to push forward with this project, and we're going to do it. We will take every obstacle as it comes, and we will figure it out. There are enough smart people in this room. So throughout 2020, for that first year, I actually supported that entire team with the launch of Kin. And I work with Natalie Jabor, who's an incredible salesperson. And so I helped them sort of set up their CRM process, their sales operations, help train the sales team when it came to like legal assets, disclosure, contracts, that type of stuff. And then worked with them through the sales program as the deals started coming in.
Okay.
And then in September, October.
Wait, let's go back here because Beedie's a big company, very reputable. Why don't they have somebody in-house for that?
So what's interesting is that a lot of developers have been using agency for many years. As we know, there's many incredible agency teams out there right now that do support.
And for the listeners, what does agency mean?
So it's a sales and marketing agency that a developer will hire to help them market and sell their projects.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying. Yep.
And so usually that was the standard. And there's like, a top 3 agencies in the industry. Sure. And Beedie Living was using an agency and decided that, hey, we want to be more involved with our buyers. We want to be more engaged with the transaction. And when you use agency, while agencies can be great and have lots of experience and diversity with understanding how to work with demographics in different areas, I think a lot of developers are like, how do we control our relationships? How do we control our transaction? And it's actually always boggled my mind, actually, when I was working in the agency world, of like, everything we do is about the transaction.
Right.
Everything, right? Like whether it's development, or, whether it's land acquisitions, whether it's sales, marketing, we are all working towards the sale, the transaction. So when we're ready to do the transaction, why do we third party it out? It doesn't make sense.
Totally.
Right? You're third partying out the transaction and then the relationships around the transaction. So I think that a lot of developers are now recognizing, hey, we need to have more control over our buyers, their experience, and understanding the deals, because there's compliance issues too, right?
Of course,
FinTrack, there's so much going on, right? BCFSA, like there's a lot of risk for a developer. And not to say these agencies aren't on top of it and aren't aware of the risk and aren't working really hard and to make sure that they're compliant. But again, why would a developer want to third party this out anymore? And again, pay a lot of money to third party it out, right? So with Beedie Living, they decided that they had used agency on a few projects in the past and had great success, but it was time for change. And they wanted to go in-house. And Beedie Living's opportunity was to they have a lot coming down the pipeline, right, in the future. So this was their first opportunity to go in-house. So they had hired a sales director to come in. They had their marketing team. And they just, what's interesting about my role is that you've always got sales and marketing. I'm neither. I'm sales operations.
Right.
I'm the glue that kind of ties it together. So those two teams are incredible at what they do, and they're very, very important. However, they don't always talk to each other in the same language.
Okay.
Not that they don't talk, they communicate, but it's a different style of communication. So how do you bridge the gap? So I've had the experience of bridging that gap. So that is why I was brought in with Beedie, to support them by bridging the gap and sort of managing some of the admin pieces. And through that through that term with them, I was able to help support them hire another individual that came in and now runs sort of their sales operations in the back end. And that's my goal as a consultant, is that I don't necessarily want to go in-house with any developer and work with them. I want to help set them up and hire the right team members so then the wheel keeps running.
Right.
But I want to help them hire the people that are passionate about it and not just a stepping stone. Because one of the problems I find in the industry is that you'll hire an administrator that wants to be a salesperson.
Right.
So like they're just here in this role for a period of time
Right.
because their eye is over there.
Already in the future.
They're looking at the sales floor. So are they really focused? Are they really present? Are they really engaged? Do they care? Do they care? Are they just going through the stuff?
Yeah.
So-
So in that case, it's like a wrong hire. So in business, in your ops, is really understanding the roles that are necessary and hiring correctly.
Absolutely. Having the right people in the right seats. And this administrative operations role, I don't like the word administration, to be honest. I like the word sales operations because you are not an administrator. You are supporting operations around the sales program.
Right.
And those operations are specific to sales and marketing and construction and development. You actually touch every part of the team.
Right.
So I think there needs to be a lot more value around sales operations. It's like the backbone of the business. So with working with Beedie, I was able to sort of like recognize that I love this stuff. Jesus Christ, I fucking love it. So I was like, okay, well, how can I continue doing this? And now I've been lucky enough to work with some incredible developers over the period of time. And there's a few different skill sets that I have. And I'm able to help them sort of get ready for a launch, or I'm able to help them sort of dig through audits on an existing program to make sure they're compliant and ready for closing. And then, of course, closing an entire building. So
Of course.
supporting developers with their closing process. And that can be anything from strategy to actually being very tactical and just communicating with people.
Yeah.
It's a few years ago, I was standing in a line at a coffee shop and someone tapped on my shoulder and they said, "Are you NAVI?" And I go, "Yeah." And they were like, "You helped us when we were selling or when we were buying a property from this, developer like 7 years ago."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Oh my God, how did you recognize like your voice?
Oh,
You have a distinct voice." And he took a few minutes to explain to me that during that time, his wife was going through cancer treatment. And that he was so overwhelmed with the process of closing on this home.
Right.
And it was the last thing he was worried about. It was the last thing on his mind. But I was able to make him feel taken care of.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And not to say that, I
That it's not just a
created-
transaction.
no, it's
But-
more.
Yeah.
We have lives going on. We
Yeah.
have things happening.
Yeah.
And, even like I've had a family member go through cancer. It's horrible. It's a horrible process. It's overwhelming. And your mind is not there, right? You're focused on the well-being of the person that you love. You're not thinking about all the little things you have to worry about on a home purchase, right? So just going back to like why I do what I do is because like we have people that need us. That's all it is. Just like,
Well,
why do you do what you do, Jenny?
There's only one of you.
Yes.
One of you. So what do you hope to achieve after, you obviously left the agency because it was just, one direct way of changing things, but now you're able to work on multiple contracts at a time. What do you hope to achieve at the end of this
I really hope that
for your business?
for my business, one, I really hope that more developers pay attention to Juniper. It is an app that's going to change the way we communicate and do business in this industry.
Okay.
I hope that it blows up and everybody recognizes that this should be the standard, the Holt Renfrew standard versus the Old Navy standard, right? We're living in an Old Navy world right now. Nothing wrong with Old Navy. I love their tank tops.
Right.
But I'm not going to go buy a suit from Old Navy.
Yeah.
I might go to Holt for a suit.
Yeah.
Right? So like I want that high-end quality service. And I hope that this industry recognizes that high-end quality service is not just coveting the sale. It's not just branding a project. It's not about your font package. It's not about the color scheme.
The splashy, shiny stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff matters. I'm not going to take it away. Marketing works really hard to make things beautiful. And that's what catches our eye. But we have to continue the story. We can't just drop the ball when the deal goes firm. We have to continue the relationship. So what I hope to achieve in my whatever years I have left working in this industry, this could be the end. Who knows? Never
Sounds like
work.
you're doing really well.
Never work again. Is that we care more about our buyer. We care more about their feelings and their understanding of the process. And we also covet our realtor relationships better.
Right.
Because we will kiss your realtor's ass all day long until we get the deal. Then we disappear. And then we work towards closing, and then we have massive demands for closing. And we ask the realtor why they're not ready. Well, we didn't prepare them, did we?
Of course, yeah.
We didn't prepare them.
Well, you know why I think there's that missing link there is because there's no metrics to it. I think the developers are thinking we're spending a lot of money. We've already gotten the sale. We've already gotten the deal. We just need to get them to close now. So they don't find that there's that monetary return or return on investment if they spent the in-between money. Like, why would it be necessary to spend more?
Referrals.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like if you're really looking, I mean, you're right. There's not enough metrics or reporting out there or enough data out there to say if you treat them well, will they come back? You know? But I think just look at it from a human nature perspective and yourself, right? If you are treated well at a restaurant, if you are treated well at any retail location or vacation home that you go to, you go back. You keep going back. Why do you go back? Because it's easy. That metric should actually speak louder than anything else, right? And if the resale world recognizes it, why isn't the pre-sale world recognizing it? So again, just allowing people to feel that they are cared for. We're not doing anything. There's nothing. When it comes to cost of like how much would it cost a developer to care, it doesn't have to be expensive.
Right.
This app, Juniper, is not expensive. It's definitely reasonable.
Okay.
It allows you to engage. But it goes back to like, years ago, they would do homeowner events, picnics, barbecues, community events, right? You don't even have to do that anymore. It's just a way of saying, hey, guys, we're still here and we're here if you need us.
Right.
Because most buyers don't know who to contact anymore. Their
That's true.
salesperson is gone, right?
Yeah.
Especially a year in, let's say 12 months in, right? You've lost your sales representative that helped you he's busy. She is busy. They're hustling out there. They've got to get new deals. So, and then the sales team that you were engaged with, maybe the presentation center is shut down, right? They're building now. So the sales team's gone. If you're talking to Jim one day and now you're talking to Andrew the next day, you're talking to Sally, like who are you supposed to talk to?
Right.
And sure, you might have, again, agency world saying, hey, we're customer care. But at this point, from a buyer perspective, you've had so many people reaching out to you through so many email accounts, whether it's info at, sales at, customer care at, you just don't know who to reach out to anymore.
Yeah.
And I think most buyers, they're not really caring enough to actually make a point of remembering. So how do we remind them easily? An app.
Yeah. So does that app connect with the strata documents, for example, where the strata minutes are housed? And
the goal is to offer that functionality, yes. So the app, right now it's a communication tool for developers to communicate with their homeowners. And then as we walk into completion and into orientations, we schedule orientations through it, and then we manage all post-customer care. So your light fixture's not working, you can put a service request in and you get communication back through the app, right? So is there opportunities starting involving property management teams in there? Absolutely. We're absolutely working on it. And that's the intention of Juniper, is trying to create a hub for we can't get from our perspective of understanding how deep the business is, you can't get everybody on the app, but there are certain big teams and certain opportunities that you can add into the app to allow the buyer to feel everything's in one place. So yes, the goal is to get property management teams involved in the app so you can get your strata minutes, you can get your Form Bs, you can update, your
parking and storage lease, which has been a main issue.
I know, right?
Over and over again.
I couldn't even tell you how many people have reached out to me being like, I'm selling my home. I bought it 8 years ago. I do not know how to prove that this is my parking stall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, your lawyer should have it if you don't have it. And a developer is responsible for 7 years after closing to keep a record of those documents. The only problem is it can be difficult to track them down.
Right.
So, yeah, we can find them, but it might take some time. But if it's outside of your 7 years, back in the day when everything was paper, we shred it because we need the space for the new stuff. But now it's digital, and so you probably are keeping it for longer than 7 years. But at some point, your bandwidth from that is going to expire too, and you have to start destroying things you no longer need.
Exactly.
And then it kind of hurts the buyer because they're lost. And so, yeah, imagine if you had it on an app.
Gap.
Poof.
Yeah.
All your details
They're
on an
all
app.
there.
Like, you have a calendar, right, on your phone.
Yeah.
You live
I
by
do.
that calendar. Everything's on there.
Mm-hmm.
Same. It's the same kind of concept. Everything you need
Mm-hmm.
is on this app
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to feel informed. And it goes both ways, buyer and developer and realtor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what kind of clients have you seen coming on? Because obviously there's a cost to this. So someone who is building a 10-unit project that could be finding that maybe it's not worth that investment versus someone who it makes sense for somebody who's like 300 units to sign on to this project.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting new. We're just, probably about 2 years into this right now. So it does take time to get people engaged. We're working with some developers right now, Alabaster Homes, Shape Properties, Gatehouse Designs. We're talking to a lot of the bigger developers. I think a lot of developers are like, we can do this ourselves. We'll build it in-house.
Oh, gosh.
And that's great. If you have deep pockets, you absolutely can. But how far can you go, right? How long will it take you? And this app, actually, Juniper, one of the beauties behind it is it's white labeled. So it doesn't actually ever have to show a Juniper brand on it.
Awesome.
It can actually be the developer brand, project brand. You never need to see Juniper, period. So when you engage with a buyer or a realtor, it can be you as a developer, your brand.
Right.
We also have the opportunity to change a language on it. So if as a user, as a buyer, you speak Mandarin as your first language and you're the buyer, well, the app actually can convert into that language for you.
Yeah.
So again, supporting buyers, right? And not just one shoe fits all, right? It's for individuals, allowing them to see what they need to see the way they need to see it. So yes, there are quite a few developers. If I might have to look in my phone just to get the answers. If you actually want me to list them out.
No, you don't need to.
Okay.
More than anything is I just want to know are like the sizes of, let's just say, a smaller project. Do they even want to invest into something like this?
I mean, that's a great question. Where do you want to take your business? Right? So whether you're small or big, where do you want to take your business? How do you want to engage with your buyers? What kind of relationships do you want to have with them? Do you want referral opportunities in the future? There is costs in this industry. Of course there is. In anything that we do. Construction costs are rising daily. I think by the minute to minute, they're increasing. So it's an investment, yes.
Yeah.
But is the investment going to give you a payoff? Absolutely, because homeowners are going to feel that you care about them. Again, going back to connecting. Let's just reconnect as humans again, shall we? Let's reconnect. That's all it is.
I agree.
And so we are providing an opportunity that's easy for you to reconnect versus doing these mass mails that have worked. I'm not going to say they haven't worked, but it's 2022. Didn't Elon Musk fly to the moon or something? Like, isn't it time that we do something different outside of a mass mail? We have to.
The last question before we go to our 5 rapid fire questions, where I just need one word answers. Okay. But before that, my question to you was, how responsive are the developers right now in Vancouver?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So what's interesting about Vancouver is that we live in this weird bubble of like, we are afraid of technology. We are afraid of moving forward. We've done really well in Vancouver with pre-sale. We've done incredibly well. If anything, I think we're sort of that template for everybody else out there in the world to say, hey, they did really well. Let's copy them. But we're a little bit scared of technology and looking outside of the box. So I think that, yes, there is going to be some hesitation because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But the market is asking us to change. Right now, obviously, sales aren't, flying out of the sky like they were in 2012. But right now, I think it's a matter of, do the developers want to try something new? Are they willing to take risk? Are they willing to take a bet on this? And at the end of the day, what's the bet? People? In an industry that is focused on people?
Right.
So again, just stepping outside of your comfort zone. That's all it is.
Thank you.
Even years ago or before COVID, we didn't use Zoom at all. Nobody used Zoom. We wanted butt in seat in boardroom, right? But now Zoom is easy because they just had to. Were
Right.
forced into it. So they stepped out of their comfort zone. And now Zoom is very common. If anything, everybody's like, I'm not coming in.
That's the only way we'll have meetings is through Zoom.
Is through Zoom. And that's not even a security or safety issue. It's just because I don't want to leave my house.
and change. Okay, let's go to our 5 rapid fire questions. The hour has passed by so fast.
I know.
What's your current obsession?
Oh, reading. I'm really into reading right now.
Okay.
And I'm reading like a bunch of different books. I've been trying to read like this one book like for years, and it's just a difficult book to read.
Principles?
No, I'm really into reading and nothing serious really. I'm just like fiction and just getting away from reading disclosure statements.
Okay,
really.
good. Well, actually, my next question was favorite read at the moment, but let's go to the next one. Name your superpower.
Connecting with people.
Okay. 3 words to describe yourself.
Oh, positivity, excellent communicator, and I win people.
Did you look at these questions?
No,
before?
this is natural.
Let's switch it up. Let's see here. My last question is, who or what inspires you?
Women like you.
Aw.
And not because you're obviously amazing at what you do, but you come at it with a very authentic approach. Again, you care, right? Why are you Burnaby Now's realtor, first #1 realtor since 2014?
I get my friends to vote for me.
I mean, I vote for you every year. Let's be honest here. But no, like honestly, why have you been successful, Jenny?
I do everything with intention. It's just really focused on what we want out of this and it's being purposeful and being
it's cause and effect, right? What's the effect that you hope to achieve? Well, how do we get there?
and the greater good for the community.
Yeah, and that's the exact same reason I have done what I'm doing is because I truly believe there is a way for us to be better, and I want to make it easier. It's not hard. Buying a home should be a celebratory, positive, exciting experience, and we kind of are hurting in the process.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Well, thank you so much for talking so professional.
Was I professional?
For you guys, I didn't mention earlier, but Navi and I are really good friends outside of work.
She follows me around.
I do. We're actually going to Chelsea Handler tonight.
Yeah, we are.
And it's so good to always learn from you because I always come to you for questions as well. You're such a great resource for me. So where can everybody find you?
I'm on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn and your phone number?
Is that real? Okay. So my email is navi@naviguraya.com.
Okay.
I am super creative. Obviously, I need some marketing help and branding, but I'm just Navi Guraya Consulting Limited. I'm straightforward, and I think that actually represents my brand is that there is no, flashiness around me. I'm just simple and straightforward, and I try to be as authentic as I possibly can. So if you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. My email is navi@naviguraya.com. No, I do not have a website, but Jenny's giving me the stank eye, and I will get one. And I don't have business cards, and I will never have business cards.
But you know what? You've done, all this, the past 2 years have been through referrals and the network that you've worked with, and you have such a great reputation in the business.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I feel lucky enough to keep working with some incredible developers, incredible people, and people that are ready for change, people that are excited about change and doing something a little different. So I feel very lucky to be in the right place at the right time and to hopefully in a few years from now, we can look back at this and say, wow, like, look at us. We have made a change in the way we care about the people.
Awesome. Thank you, Navi.